We live in a country where a political party tries to tell us not to say Merry Christmas. Think about the totalitarian. Out of my way! That's right. Get out of my mind. Get out of my way. Stop trying to tell me what to think or what to do or what to like. You people aren't liberals. You're a bunch of mind control wannabe North Korean bootlickers. Goodbye, control freaks. We're awake. The sleeping giant that is free humanity is rising. I'm not your slave. Yeah. I'm not your slave. Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. Is this Christmas music okay to all the Soviet type? You like this Christmas music? Ladies and gentlemen, we are broadcasting worldwide on this Christmas Eve. I'm your host, Alex Jones, and I am fired up today. Wow. Dr. Jerome, of course, he was going to be on the show today, but he's under the weather. So you know what that means. It means wide open phones. But let me just reset here and calmly, yet again, point out that we said it was probably Sony working with the Democratic Party as a huge stunt so Obama could look like an anti-totalitarian and bash North Korea, which is a good target to bash. It's so horrible, it makes him look good. I'll just say it. North Korea is his wish list, is his dream. Kim Jong-un has red carpets, has large jumbo jets. Everyone else doesn't have air conditioning or food. Obama goes to Africa, and he says, you can't have air conditioning or a car. I just landed in a jumbo jet with red carpets and 500 security people costing hundreds of millions each visit. That's okay. I'm going to charge you for carbon taxes, make myself exempt, and then live in palaces. That's okay. So, see, he'd love, when Obama grows up, he wants to be like Kim Jong-un. A nobody who didn't do anything for his power, who's soft, ugly, pathetic, scum-ridden, anti-human maggot of hell. The opposite of what I want to be. The opposite of George Washington. The opposite of Lewis and Clark. The opposite of all the great minds. A joke. An abomination. The opposite of being strong and free. Groveling to Dennis Rodman. That's just perfect. That's absolutely picture perfect. A picture tells 1,000 words, doesn't it? Do I need to describe that? So addled in tyranny, unable, so narcissistic, so worshipful at the tree of celebrity that through the distorted lens that little maggot looks through, when he was living in an armored palace at private school in Switzerland on the blood of his people, never even living in North Korea after the age of 10, that he would think Dennis Rodman, a washed-up joke for more than a decade, was a god. It's incredible. Truth is stranger than fiction. And now, breaking, we can conclusively confirm North Korea was not behind SONY attack. And they go over what the top security firms have looked at. CBS News is also reporting it. 200 gigabytes of data on November 21st was transferred out. And they go over all of the breakdown. And it's not what they thought. We'll break that down after Paul Watson's report. Because, look, it's bigger than this movie or Obama saying he's not a dictator to make himself look good, comparing himself to Kim Jong-un and standing up for free speech when he's really waging a war against it. It's taking this story and just seeing how they run these hoaxes. Because the only power mainstream dinosaur media has on its last leg is total concerted hype with a major corporation and the White House all doing everything they can to hype something, and still, within a week and a half, it unravels and is falling on its face as a giant, stinking fraud to pass unlimited power in the new Congress. They've reintroduced CISPA. They've introduced the treaties for CISPA and SOPA at the UN level as well to end internet freedom, using this hack as the excuse, thinking you're so stupid. Cyber Command investment ensures hackers targeting U.S. face retribution. Pentagon budget documents detail growing military commitment to cyber warfare. And you notice they shut down North Korea's internet for now 3 days running off and on. Well, that's not hard. They barely got electricity, but in 2 cities. They're still on dial-up. It's like saying the Pentagon put its boot on a dead squirrel's neck in the park. Let's go ahead and go to Paul Watson's report that's on Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, middle column of DrudgeReport.com.
Has this been one huge cynical marketing campaign from the very beginning, with news that Sony may now be planning to show the interview on Christmas Day after all? Sources familiar with the situation tell the Dallas Morning News that Sony executives are discussing the likelihood of a Thursday release during a conference call that was scheduled to begin at 10 this morning Dallas time. The Alamo Drafthouse has also announced that it will screen the film if it becomes available. And Atlanta's Plaza Theatre has also announced that it plans to show the controversial movie on Christmas Day. So is the marketing campaign now complete? Because remember, the Guardians of Peace, the hacking group behind the breach of Sony, in their original message did not mention North Korea or the movie The Interview in their initial threat. This whole hacking scandal only became about the interview and North Korea as a result of the media narrative that was massaged by Sony in the weeks that followed the initial hack. The initial investigation of the hack strongly suggested to the FBI that it was an inside job carried out by a Sony employee who had to have had intricate knowledge of Sony's security and email system. There was no hard evidence to suggest that North Korea was behind the attack, yet this narrative was created that the North Koreans had been behind the breach as a result of them being offended at the fact that Kim Jong-un was assassinated in the movie The Interview. And to bolster the narrative that North Korea was behind the hack and that the United States was responding, North Korea's internet went down yesterday and it's just gone down again today. So the question is, was this planned all along? Is this the ultimate cynical marketing campaign with Sony reversing its decision to show the interview? Of course, they've built up all this anticipation amongst the general public to see this film, initially denying them the chance to see it. Now it appears as though it could be rolled out on Christmas Day. So if that happens, this movie is obviously going to gross far more than it would have done so otherwise. So even if you believe that the initial Sony hack was carried out by an outside party and was not an inside job, which is what a lot of evidence suggests, could they have attempted to recoup some of the cost of that hack by strong-arming this movie into the narrative by making it all about North Korea and the interview, so as to provide this build-up of anticipation to see this movie, which is now released, which will now gross many millions more than it would have done so otherwise. And of course, Sony could not have carried off this North Korea narrative without the White House's help. You know, labeling this the most unprecedented cyber attack in history, with Obama in his speech on Friday vowing to respond. Now we've got North Korean internet going down twice. And of course, this has reinvigorated support for CISPA and SOPA, two bills that were completely dead. It was zombie legislation going nowhere. Now those privacy-busting bills are going to be reintroduced and voted on as soon as next month. The resurrected version of CISPA is going to grease the skids for more internet regulation, and the resurrected version of SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act, if passed, is going to make life a hell of a lot easier for Sony and those other movie studios to crack down on copyright infringement. So we see both a financial motive in building up the anticipation behind the interview. We also see a political motive in greasing the skids for SOPA, which was completely dead. Now is going to be reintroduced, it looks like, as soon as next month. So you go across the board and you see that the only people to benefit from this hack in the long run is not North Korea, is not Kim Jong-un, is not any nebulous hacker group. It's the US government and Sony. So then you ask the question, who's likely to have been behind the attack? I wonder. Let me know what you think in the comments below. This is Paul Joseph Watson reporting for Infowars.com.
Super job. They call us conspiracy theorists. We just know how the system works. And now, here's the Hollywood Reporter with the headline, Sony hack studio security points to inside job. What'd we say a week and a half ago? Fox News, Fox suspicion mounting. Sony hack was inside job. Boy, I've gotten criticized for using that term. Now it's a modern colloquialism that everybody's using. It's in the nomenclature. U.S. retaliation for Sony hack should not leave fingerprints. But it did. It's a frame-up. The FBI originally told the truth and said they thought it was an inside job. Obama took it over, made it political, and had a higher FBI group put out a report saying that it was linked to North Korea. It's actually linked to Japan. And a lot of the hacks that are done, even when they come out of the U.S., bounces off Japan or Australia. I'm not a hacker, but this is what I've been told by top people. That's how they hide it. But the top groups that have been analyzing this, that are quoted in CBS News, top security firms say it leads to Japan. Variety says how Obama took Sony's crisis from bad to worse. Yeah, he jumped into the middle of it saying, hey, don't let people violate our First Amendment, some dictator. And then when Sony came back and said, okay, we'll air it, part of the marketing scam, that's pretty evident now, I'd say 95%, he jumps in and says, good job. And no one's buying it because everyone knows about false flags and inside jobs. Does that mean everything's a false flag or inside job? No. But when you see this type of coordination and the FBI's original report being ignored, just like 9/11, the FBI tried to stop the hijackers in Minnesota, Illinois, Arizona, and Dallas. The FBI, in everywhere there were hijackers training, tried to stop them and was told, stand down. I'll never forget the headline. I think it was New York Daily News, but FBI agents were sure Al-Qaeda had moles in FBI above them. Exactly. But how about the globalists have moles who then run Al-Qaeda? Just like our government runs ISIS, criminal elements of it right now. See, the media would always try to be one-dimensional and go, Alex Jones says the New York police blew up the World Trade Centers. No, I didn't say that. Or Alex Jones says Bush had a plunger and planted bombs. I didn't say that. Criminal groups internationally with enough operatives inside had a stand down we know happened. Stand down happened. FBI never revealed it had Al-Qaeda mole who met bin Laden. You guys found an NBC report, but that's not it. It was something like It's in my first film, Road to Tyranny. The headline is, it was also in The Guardian, similar headline. FBI agents thought Al-Qaeda had a mole in the FBI. And that was because Al-Qaeda was always one step ahead of them and knew everything they were doing. Because there were people above them protecting them. That's what's going on here. But see, people say, you either just support the FBI or you hate them. You either just support the police or you hate them. That's how we get into this divide and conquer and lose the country, folks. There are criminal groups, globalist operations that have infiltrated and have got their people. It's so accurate in a cartoon fashion, a stylized fashion. Captain America, Winter Soldier, where Hydra is the thousands of Nazis brought into the U.S. after World War II. That really happened, over 30,000 of them, in charge of basically everything. And then they run their own global takeover operation through the U.S. But it's not just Nazis. It's worse than that. Hydra came out of British intelligence, founded the Nazis as a husk to carry out corporate operations, then to steal the money, transfer it back to Hydra operations. It was even described by Ian Fleming of MI6 and OSS, and described by Dr. Kaufman, who was in MI6, and described by Colonel Craig Roberts, who had high-level connections in the CIA, frequent guest here. He's basically written things off. He just says he's done. He wrote the book Hydra. It's called Hydra, folks. It's called Hydra. So it's not that that's in Captain America, so I'm now saying it's called Hydra. That's why they have the Hydra character, not just a Spectre, in the James Bond movies. As it was originally Hydra. And why? Because there's a head with a bunch of tentacles. You never see the head. Tentacles come out. You chop one off, it just grows another one. It's just a criminal enterprise working, and the divide and conquer system that British intelligence used in the Great Game to take over much of the world has now been used to take over corporations, countries, families, until the science of dividing everybody has been brought to such a level that they're now destroying the minds of the individual itself, so nothing can stand against Hydra. It's a disease, and the people involved in it are the most mentally ill of them all. It's just total evil. And so it's true. It's like 34,000 Nazis were put in charge of the major universities, the rocketry, the Air Force, the Army, everything, intelligence operations, publishing, banking, everything. They would be the directors of operations, and then you'd have another director above them who was a U.S. citizen. But the people actually running things have been wearing black uniforms in Germany. We're back live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us on this Christmas Eve edition. George Washington was a winter soldier. He fought when all the odds were against him because he knew what he was doing was right. From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape, but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new InfoWars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.